Very pleased to have with us on the program from the Independence Institute in Colorado, Mr. Dave Kopel. Dave, how you doing, sir?
Good. How about you?
The program this afternoon, and looks like so we got a lot of stuff to talk about actually because the Senate Democrats introduced a gun control package yesterday, all kinds of stuff, and then I see in the Denver Post the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is facing questions over its inability to meet a 3-day federal gun background check mandate. And they have told the Denver Post that it would have the state attorney general review its policy for processing the checks. Let's start there, Dave, if you don't mind. What's going on with CBI?
Colorado is one of those states that uses its option to make a state agency rather than the FBI the point of contact for the InstaCheck. So the Colorado state law creating the InstaCheck, enacted in 1994, says that we're going to have the InstaCheck and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation shall perform the InstaCheck promptly and shall have sufficient staffing to do it promptly based on reasonably anticipated demand. The Colorado statute also says, and this is how we are implementing the National InstaCheck, Volume 18 of the United States Code, Section 922T. 922T, which the Colorado law adopts by reference, says when you're doing the InstaCheck, if after 3 government working days you haven't heard back, you can go ahead and sell the gun. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation, on its so-called InstaCheck, has for years, instead of making it Insta, has had at the least delays of many hours, frequently delays of several days, and is now in a 8-day backlog.
8 days?
Yeah. So under the fairly explicit federal law, 3 days after 3 days of waiting, the firearms seller can transfer the gun, 3 government working days. CBI had sent out a memo to Colorado firearms dealers saying, oh, you know that 3-day thing? Well, that doesn't count until we get around to pulling your contact request for a check out of our enormous backlogged queue. So the 3 days doesn't start running till we get around to starting to work on it. That's plainly in violation of federal law. The federal law says the time starts ticking when the licensed dealer contacts the state or federal agency. The contact comes when so in a practical sense today, it's when the firearms dealer, using the internet, sends the electronic request to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. It couldn't be clearer that that's when that is the contact. I mean that's when it happens. And CBI was saying no, not really. It's when we get around to looking at it. So it's sort of like not when you receive the mail, but when you get around to opening it whenever you feel like it. And so the Denver Post was, to their great credit, a reader told them about the situation. They sent a reporter, Ryan Parker, who started digging into it, and he contacted the CBI, and the CBI says, well, the FBI state liaison said we could do this, and Parker also contacted the FBI in D.C., and maybe in West Virginia, I'm not sure, but the high end of the FBI InstaCheck system, and the guys at the FBI nationally said, well, yeah, obviously it means 3 days from when from the contact, not 3 days from when the state agency decides to start doing something about it. The Colorado Attorney General was asked about it, and upon reflection, CBI and the Colorado AG said, we'll look into this, because it's a, which is a polite way of saying it looks like we've been busted for doing something that's blatantly illegal, so we'll seek to clarify our legal position.
All right. So
and this is when Colorado, there's a very big push for what people call universal background checks.
Right.
And if you want to do that, at least have the background check system for retail sales be functional and compliant with the law.
Well, one would think that would sort of be a given.
A good first step. Yeah, and as I've said to journalists and others, this is an example of why so many gun owners are so skeptical of gun controls, which when you describe them at their highest level of generality in just an attractive phrase like universal background checks,
right,
they don't trust the system. So, the Colorado Insta-Check was set up, and I support it, in a fair and appropriate way in '94. The statute's very clear. Do it promptly. Have enough staff so you can do it promptly. And then if for whatever reason you can't get it done in 3 days, then the sale can go forward. Everything I just said has been flagrantly violated by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. So, no wonder people are skeptical, saying, well, let's expand the system. If the government isn't going to act in good faith and obey the very explicit statute enacted which creates this background check program, then people will, with good reason, say, well, why do we think that if they expand this background check program and the legislature tells them exactly how to do it and it's a well-written law, that they're going to obey that law?
Well, exactly right. And so, Dave, I know that the Denver Post says that NRA President David Keene's actually going to be meeting with Governor Hickenlooper on this issue.
Yeah.
But, Andrew Rulanundum, NRA spokesman, said it's fair to say this is an issue of concern to us, and it needs to be addressed. I mean, short of upping the staffing level, what can be done?
Well, no, I mean, upping the staffing level is exactly what they're supposed to do, and the CBI went to the Colorado State Legislature this year and said, "Can we have $500,000 more so we can comply with the law?" You have at least 4 members of our budget committee who said, "We don't really care if you're complying with the law that our state legislature enacted and that you're doing things properly." So, I'm hopeful that and I think the governor and his staff are aware of this problem, and I'm hoping that and they are very ardent on wanting expanded background checks. So I'm hopeful that they will use their influence in the legislature to say, yeah, we're going to do universal checks, and we're going to do them right, which means we're going to put in the funding so that we can not only take care of the existing demand from retail stores, and in addition, we've got to have all the more, because whatever that unknown number of just individual personal sales is, it's going to obviously increase the demand, and we need to have all the resources in place at the CBI so that the Insta-Check is a Insta-Check and not a 8-day thing. Because, in practice, the only way you're ever going to get private sellers to comply with a universal check where you got to, you and I both live in the same state and I want to buy one of your guns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're a very law-abiding person, so maybe that's the wrong example. But two regular guys, you're going to say, look, you got to go out of your way. Your neighbors, you could just sell it to each other and have it over within 5 minutes.
Right.
Or, you're going to spend a couple hours going to the gun store and having the dealer do the check there for you. Some people will do that if the check can be completed in a reasonable time, but when they say, well, we just started it and come back in 8 days, we'll let you know if it can happen. In practice, people aren't going to comply with that. They're not going to voluntarily go into the store so they can wait 8 days.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I got to tell you, Dave, I mean, it really, when you hear that, a group of legislators, were told, all right, we need more money in order to comply with this law, and they said, nah, let's just not comply with the law. Why do we need another law when we have lawmakers who are not allowing the state agency responsible for running these checks to comply with the law?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just mind-boggling.
That is the question of the day in Colorado.
Unbelievable. All right, so I got to ask you as well about the gun control package that has been introduced by folks there in the Colorado State Senate. There is no semi-auto ban, at least yet, but
That's right.
But there are a lot of really onerous provisions here.
Well, yes, a ban on magazines over 10 rounds being the most extreme one, and obviously those are, as you know, and the audience out there of this fine program does, despite what the media and Piers Morgan and folks like that will tell you, gun manufacturers do not produce 12-round magazines because they're selling them to mass-murdering sociopaths. Even if the gun manufacturers were that evil, there aren't enough customers like that to make any money. They are selling 12 and 15 and 19-round magazines and 30-round magazines for guns like the NRA rifle because there is a high demand among law-abiding civilians and police for these because these are frequently the best choice in the individual's view for lawful protection of self and others. That's why the police these days typically carry semi-auto handguns with a magazine of 11 to 19 rounds, and it's why in a typical police car you'll see very commonly find an AR-15 with 30-round magazines. And the same reasons the police choose them is the same reason that they're overwhelmingly a choice of Americans for lawful protection of self and others, and for all other legitimate purposes such as target shooting or anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked with the sheriff in Los Animas County, Colorado, earlier this week, and all 62 county sheriffs have signed on to this position paper stating that they don't support new gun control laws, including the semi-auto ban, for exactly that reason. I mean, they just came right out and said, look, we carry these firearms, and civilians have the same right and reasons to carry these firearms as well.
Exactly. The police aren't, the sheriffs or deputies are not carrying these guns because they want to commit mass murder, or for that matter, because they want to go hunting with those guns while they're on duty. They're carrying them because they're good guns for lawful protection.
Absolutely. Now, what about, Dave, this provision that would say if you are the manufacturer or seller of some firearms, these semi-automatic rifles that we're going to label assault weapons, then you're going to be liable if they're used in a crime or if there's an accident and somebody gets hurt. But if you manufacture shotguns, if you manufacture rifles that we say are okay, if you manufacture handguns, you're not going to be liable.
I think that bill is a sign that the anti-gun people in the Colorado legislature are fundamentally not serious. I mean, dangerous perhaps, but not serious in a constructive way. That bill is in flagrant violation of the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, passed by Congress with a heavy bipartisan majority and signed by President Bush in 2005. And among the people who really gets the most credit for that being passed was the then Senate Minority Leader, Harry Reid. It's obviously, there's no possible dispute that this is contrary to the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. There's no suit that any court in the United States could hear based on the claim of the theory of this bill.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Dave, we're almost out of time, but thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. It's great talking to you today.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Dave Kopel, Research Director at the Independence Institute in Colorado.